Morning. It's Friday, the 10th, or Thursday, I beg your pardon, the 10th day of February 2022. Welcome to the newspaper review segment of the morning show. My name, of course, is Blessed Man Aloma. So I'm sitting in for Kwame Owusu Danso. Let me take you through the topics we'll be discussing for this morning's show. Then I'll introduce my guest pretty shortly. So, African Union suspends debate on observer status for Israel. That story was taken from the Insight newspaper. Sacked KIA boss shocked. Sacked KIA boss shocked. That story we took from the Daily Guide newspaper. And Che Mensa angers Ghanaians with E-levy cake. Che Mensa angers Ghanaians with E-levy cake. And E-levy, Yentua demo set for today. Talking about demonstrations also, I think the Coalition of Concerned University Students, they are also demonstrating today the fact that their lecturers have been absent from the classrooms, and it seems, government has not or hasn't agreed with the lecturers on the way forward. So they are hitting the streets this morning as well. And Adjoa Safo on Adjoa Safo on away without official leave. I think that's what it stands for. MPP MP alleges. That story we took from the Daybreak newspaper. So these are the topics tabled for this morning's discussion. I have Honorable Dr. Adumaku Kisi. He is the Member of Parliament for the Nyasu Utum constituency. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show. Right. Mr. Pratt Jr. is the managing editor of the Insight newspaper. He doubles as the General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. Good morning, boss.
Good morning, sir.
Right. And Honorable Dr. Abdul Rashid Pelpo is the Member of Parliament for Wa Central. Good morning, Honorable.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks.
Right. So without further ado, let's get into our very first topic. But before, let me remind you that we are live on Facebook at Pan-African Television. Do all to send in your comments on the various topics we're about discussing, and I'll be more than glad to read them for you. Just make sure that your messages are devoid of insult, because once you insult anybody, please, I can promise you that I won't read them. Right. So let's get into our very first story. African Union suspends debate on observer status for Israel. So the African Union has suspended a debate on whether to withdraw Israel's accreditation as an observer to the bloc, avoiding a vote that risked creating an unprecedented rift in the 55-member body. As the summit opened in Ethiopia's capital Addis Ababa on Saturday, Palestinian Authority Prime Minister Mohamed Shtayyeh urged African leaders to withdraw the accreditation, saying Israel should never be rewarded for its violation and for the apartheid regime it does impose on the Palestinian people. Speaking to reporters at the end of the two-day summit on Sunday, the AU's newly elected chairman, Macky Sall, said there was an agreement to postpone the vote until the next summit in 2023. This issue can divide us. Africa cannot be divided, he told reporters, saying such a development would result in a fragile institution that may not effectively tackle major issues. He added that a committee has been set up with the goal of consulting with member states and building a consensus on the matter. It will be composed of 8 heads of state and government and will present its recommendations at the next summit, Macky Sall said. The dispute was set in motion in July last year when Musa Faki Mahamat, chair of the AU Commission, accepted unilaterally Israel's accreditation to the bloc, triggering protest by a number of member states. On Sunday, Mahamat defended his decision as legal by granting the observer status to Israel. I acted in full compliance with my prerogative and powers, he said, as he briefed reporters with Sall. But I respect the decision of the summit. The story goes on and on, but this is some excerpt of the story as reported by the Insight newspaper. Let me start kindly with Honorable Dr. Adumaku Kisi.
Well, good morning, and good job with what you've been doing on Pan-African Greetings to my constituency folks within Anyaso Tom, and we wish KOD well wherever he is. Israel is a very interesting country. If you're doing biblical work, you can't do it without reference to Israelites or the nation of Israel. Apparently, in many times past, they had been called the chosen one. I mean, I think, and their excitement also probably comes from the fact that they've actually made their stake in the history of mankind. They've been in bondage before. Looking at the story of Israel in Egypt, so they've experienced hardship, and in addition, looking at their history with Germany, they've experienced hardship in multiple ways that we cannot forget. I would have thought that per some of the experiences they had, they would have been a bit more considerate of humanity in terms of their relationship with Palestine. That's just me thinking in very simple terms. Granted that the impasse between them and the Palestinians, is largely due to territorial or, as it is, land-related disputes. So these are almost land guard-related issues, which makes our Ghanaian land guard experience quite small, because our land guards here do not use missiles. Our land guards here do not use grenades and, as it is, heavy bombs. As it stands, there's always some level of fighting between the Israelites and the Palestinians, and I don't know when this issue would ever be resolved. Granted, it's not a standalone country. Israel is very equipped. There's one thing at least I admire with Israel, in the sense that every person goes through military training or service, and as such, it is one of the remarkable things that I would hope that Ghana can adopt in the foreseeable future. In the sense that I think it makes the people more patriotic. It makes them very, very well equipped in terms of their sense of security, because of the training they go through, and more importantly, discipline. And I think that our Ghanaian culture and our respect for the elderly, or even discipline in the nation, has dwindled to some extent. And I would hope that someday, maybe, more of us going through military exercise may make us more conscious of the need to respect power, of the need to respect authority, and as such, be more minded in the words we use against or for people in authority. Now, with regards to the AU proposition of removing Israel, I mean, some of these things, let's not ignore the fact that it comes with some financial losses. It comes with some financial impact, in the sense that when you build relationship with Israel, you stand to benefit in one way or the other. We have people within our country who are UN observers, who are in the military and go on UN duties, and a lot of them even serve at the border between Israel and Palestine because of the relationship issue. The world supports Israel or the Palestinians in that regard, the border closing and how they manage the borders, because when they have just Israel military, then the Palestinians' reaction is quite different. So withdrawing Israel from AU operations has other rippling effects that I think we need to be very mindful of, because you cannot withdraw them from Africa and then expect them to also agree to have African, military presence or military trained people working on their borders. So, there will be many considerations that have to be, looked at. But I appreciate the comments of the AU leadership in the sense that you can't be meting out hardship to people in one place and then come and be an observer in another place, trying to, as it is, stop others from doing what you are doing in your own backyard. And I think that, for me, it shows some level of maturity in the African discourse and the African leadership, at least, making their voice known in this regard. I think Israel was largely emboldened by former President Donald Trump in that region, in the sense that he was a very brutal, fanatic supporter of Israel's, wishes, or Israel's, management of their borders. And as you well know, what he did with Jerusalem and all of that. So Israel in the last, decade has been largely empowered by the American, as it is, diplomatic corps. And as such, I don't know how this AU decision will also be impacted or impact our relations with the Americas. And it's not a very simple diplomatic decision as it appears to be. But in concluding on this matter, I think that border issues are no joke, and is a matter of how one sovereign nation protects themselves, or how one sovereign nation sees the border country and their relationship with them. I'll steal a little bit also from what is actually heavily ongoing now with regards to Russia and Ukraine, in the sense that per what we know, it appears that Russia would love to adopt Ukraine, or if not adopt, literally do a hostile takeover of governance in Ukraine, in simple terms. And Russia too feels that no, they are rather, quote unquote, not meddling with the affairs of the Ukrainian governance, but supporting them to manage their affairs. And all of this comes down to also resources. I mean, Ukraine has some very good mineral resources and other things that the world knows that and feels that Russia is not going to Ukraine primarily for just the governance, but literally for powers in terms of, extracting and taking advantage of Ukraine. But I really think that diplomacy or international relations is being tested again, and Africa is making a very bold case, which I'm hoping would be given the necessary credence, the necessary respect at the seat of world governance, and it's nice to see that we don't have necessarily the same weight in terms of financial weight, but at least we are a constituent in the world stage of diplomacy, and we are through the African Union making our concern known.
Right.
And I would hope that in finality or in coming to an end, as they decide and stay with it, they consider the ramifications because these things it's a cascade of events,
right,
and it's not just one thing like, oh, we withdraw Israel and Israel maintains all the African presence we have in Israel, or we do not get winged by the Americas in terms of we opposing an American as it is foreign relations strategy.
Right.
So that is the least I can say. I've always been a fan of Henry Kissinger to an extent, and then there was this one woman, Madeleine Albright. Very, these were all people with Israeli heritage, but they were one of the finest, Secretary of States that the Americans had in terms of managing some of these affairs. So right. I think I'll leave it there. I'm swayed to be a little bit more, superpower inclined, and I think that we ought to be very mindful of the fact that if this will bring on us some superpower sanctions, we ought to be very careful.
Some ramifications, like
yes.
you put it, right.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Let me come to Honorable Dr. Rashid Pelpo.
Superpower sanctions, because if Africa doesn't agree or what?
Oh, I mean, when I say sanctions, I mean they will bite us maybe somewhere a little bit because literally if we do that, then that means we're taking a stand in opposition to, for instance, an American foreign relations strategy.
Not succumb to their demands.
I mean, it is what it is. That's diplomacy.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you are playing to the game, you ought to know, and even in our own small politics, you ought to know who's backing who, so that when you are going after the small fish, who's being backed by a very big fish, if you're not careful, the big fish might take offense, and as such take certain actions. But like I said, all these cost-benefit analysis, and it should be weighed in that regard.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. And let me say good morning to Wa Central. I'm sure they are watching. It's one of the most watched television stations in the Upper West region.
Then I have to join you there one of these
days. Yes, of course. Yeah. I think this is a very dicey issue. The Palestine has an observer status in the African Union, and so if Israel is asking for it, my fear is that African Union will now become a center of bigger conflict between two sides, backed by two heavy bodies, and so often, whilst you go to observe, there will also be some input of divergence from each side. But this is a big issue to Africa. And if they think that it won't benefit us, why do you accept them? Now, international relations is about international interests and national interests. How much interest will the AU gain by allowing Israel as an observer? What is Israel bringing in? How is it going to ensure the unity of Africa? How is it going to support the process of us breaking from all the imperialist attachments we are today facing? And the bigger issue is the economic issue. We want to unite as a body. The AU is just the beginning of a bigger union that we want to see happen. We want to see a united Africa, united in the military, united in economic power, and etc., etc. Fight against any kind of imperialism that will eventually suck our wealth almost for nothing. So we are in the process, and we know our objective. We know what we are going to do. We know what we want, and we are determined to fight against any colonialists, anybody who dominates the lives of others, no matter who you are. Because we've come from there, and our DNA is fight against all these kinds of people. So if that is part of their agenda to help us fight them, maybe to even help us fight Israel away from Palestine, dominating the lives of Palestinians unfairly, then if they are bringing that on board, and I know they won't bring that on board, Africa will be happy to join in that struggle. So the African Union would have to take a tough decision here, and they have suspended the discussion on it. I know that in the end they will come out with something solid. You know, nobody is against another power wanting to associate with others, but you look at the raison d'etat, the reasons behind it. You look at how much it is going to worth you if you relate with another nation and you don't get the full benefit of the relationship with that nation. You don't go in for it. Nobody does that. International interest is prime, and national interest is also prime. The international interest of the group of Africans who have come together and the national interests of each of the countries in that group are critical. So they will weigh all that before, bringing in Israel. But it's sad that up to this time, several years after the Zionist movement, the Israeli movement into Palestine, and the determination to have two states living together, we are still having a challenge to date. And the challenge sometimes results in deaths, killings, destruction of property, and all that. So I think that they should get back on board and deal with this situation by themselves. And then, they are a friend to almost everybody who is thinking religion. They seem to be. So they can take advantage of that, repair their image at home, and then extend their friendship to others. Yeah. I wouldn't say much more than this.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me come to Mr. Pratt. Comrade Pratt.
It's your turn now. Oh, sorry. Anyway, look, well, last night we were here to but the point is this. Look, this question of observer status for Israel is not an issue which should come up for even discussion. Because if you look at the foundation of the African Union, the foundation of the African Union is anti-colonialist, anti-imperialism. These are the two key foundational stones of the African Union. Now, there's no doubt at all that the world has come to the conclusion that the Israeli system of government is a worse form of apartheid. It's indeed far worse than the apartheid that we fought to overthrow in South Africa. Israel believes in a system of separate development for separate religions and separate races and so on. That's apartheid. In fact, the United Nations General Assembly a couple of years ago actually decided that Israel was an apartheid state. Now, what are we doing with an apartheid state in the African Union? How can we even be discussing whether or not to grant observer status to an apartheid state? It's unbelievable. Before Israel came to be declared as an apartheid state, Israel's official classification was one of a colonial occupier of Palestine. Clear. Now, you see, African leaders sometimes simply just shock me. When the Zionist movement was looking for land to establish the state of Israel and so on, one of the spaces which was considered for the establishment of the state of Israel is Uganda. We're going to establish the state of Israel in Uganda. Just let us think about if that had happened, where would we be today as Africans? If the state of Israel had been established in Africa, what would have happened to the African people today? And in fact, that also belies the claim that Israel was established in Palestine because Israel has claims to Palestinian land. They would have established it in Uganda. What are their claims to Palestinian lands and so on? Now, the other thing that for me comes up in this discussion is simply the fact that the chairperson of the African Union Commission unilaterally decided to grant observer status to Israel. I mean, that goes to the core of democratic practice within the AU. How come? Now, this should have been reversed just like that. I mean, Nigeria took a very strong stand, Algeria took a strong stand, South Africa took a very strong stand, Namibia, Angola, Mozambique. These are the heavyweights in the African Union, you understand? And this matter should have been reversed quite easily. Unfortunately, it is still lingering. And we are told that it will continue to linger until 2023, when the heads of states meet. Meanwhile, we have set up a committee of 6 countries to look into the matter and to make a determination as to whether to grant Israel an observer status or not. I am quite frankly embarrassed that we've come to this point. Haiti was the first black republic in the world, established by Toussaint Louverture. We have not been able to grant membership status or observer status to Haiti. And we are talking about Israel. Is that not shameful? Is that not embarrassing? I am really embarrassed, by these developments. And I cannot be shocked. I mean, the current African leadership is not in tune with the aspirations of the African people. Look at them. They cannot even understand the phenomena which has broken out in West Africa, this phenomena of coup d'etats. And all they do, like the Europeans, is to slap sanctions and slap sanctions and slap sanctions. They have no understanding of even what is happening in their own backyard. These leaders, these are the leaders who can go and sign the economic partnership agreement with the EU, which is clearly to the detriment of the African people. African leaders have to wake up. They soon would have to realize that there's a gulf between them and the African people. And that if that gulf is not breached, the African people will get rid of them and choose their proper and true leaders.
Thank you very much. Let me do a few of your Facebook messages, and then we proceed to our next topic. Rwandan Salim says Israel's relationship to Palestine is like a colonialist Britain was to Ghana, and without the US support, Israel would not be able to occupy Palestine as they do. We Africans must unite around the cause for justice. What's best for the African people is the same for the Palestinian people. Right. Okay, I'm trying to find more related, messages to this particular topic. Rwanda Salim says, yes, Africa must unite. Edward Neo Datilamte says, fix the country, fix the country. Now E-levy has come to fix it, and same people are kicking against it. Oh, all right. We'll get to the matter of E-levy, then you can send your comments with regards to that particular topic. Let's get into our next topic for discussion. It's about the sacked KIA boss. The story goes to say that it is now emerging that the sacked managing director of the Ghana Airports Company Limited, Yakwakwa, was seemingly shocked, and I think I agree, because yesterday I saw a video of him being spoken to by journalists, and you could see the shock on his face about his dismissal, because he was not formally informed of the termination of his appointment. According to information picked by business analysts, Mr. Kwakwa infuriated some top government officials after allegedly single handling, descending on, or single-handedly, I think they didn't write this well. Yeah, descending on Magdan Aviation for not going through the right procedure in securing clearance for operating private jet services at the Terminal 1 of the Kotoka International Airport. So this is a story with regards to Yakwakwa, who has been relieved of his duties by the president. It's been alleged that issues with Magdan has resulted in this particular decision, but some people are also saying that the decision to sack him was long ago, even before this Magdan issue came up. Let me start with Honorable Dr. Rashid Pelpo on this particular topic.
Well, this is a very painful experience for the MD, for what has happened to him. And it does appear to me that the MPP administration doesn't seem to understand the real concept of governance, and that in relating with even your subordinates, there must be some decorum, some show of respect for both the system and the person who has sacrificed so much to stay with you and to work with you. There seems to be somebody in the presidency who doesn't seem to respect anybody at all, who can take a decision and everybody follows. And it might not be the president, because it does seem to be, this thing seems not to be in consonance with the person Nana Akufo-Addo. Why will this man, who is fighting for all Ghana, who is following due process? You see, the airport is a very, very security conscious area. It's a very security sensitive area too. So if somebody, a private person, comes in without following due process, comes to build a place there, even the process of starting the building, he was cautioned not to. He went ahead and do it without due process. Then he's opening it. He is warned about it. He did not respond to all the warning letters sent to him. He ignored everybody, went ahead. Even when he was told to stop the inauguration of the project, he ignored them and still went ahead. I mean, what kind of private person is this person going to, is this person? How will the fate of the country handed over to this single person? Vehicles, planes, or vessels fly into the country. You don't know who they are. They are in private jets. He receives them in that chamber, and then that is it. You don't know who they are. The airport company is not in control. Maybe security itself will be ignored, and then it satisfied the person in government, Nana Akufo-Addo, who is supposed to be the one authorizing it. So I think that decision was not for Ghana. It was for a selfish individual end.
Right. Honorable Doctor, just a moment. Let's go for a quick breather. When we return, we'll digest that topic properly. I think there's an issue.
Trasaco Estates, home to Accra's most beautiful and luxurious homes, presents its newest addition, Trasaco Springs, a premium master planned community of service plots surrounded by an exhaustive list of amenities. The gated community of Tema to Accra Motorway presents you the finest opportunity to own a land that suits your preferred size, budget, and payment terms. Trasaco Springs is open to you for development. Our on-site sales executives are ready. Call on 055 659 2658.
Hello? Okay, why? My wife comes and send a message. Hello? I didn't know. What's happened?
It's a child who will be a quiet, say, what? I did say,
Besides, one affair, I'm so years. who has not text messages here. And now officer so I'm trying to tell you man. She says me with the menya.
I mean him say we a guy man and me yen hu kolokra. And so also want a family drilling company limited for kana.
What's it then? Family Drilling Company Limited.
Ye two borehole, biofuel, biogas, swimming pool, plumbing works in Yinaso, ye be Frey 0240 333 111 and that's 0244 144 822.
Me and Pa and you want swimming pool me see. Me want to me be be family drilling now I say. Family drilling. Me out with
Hello, information.
Madam.
Me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, added.
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I even called. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about Trasacco fast floor.
Trawanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg Boris Kasha guy.
Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today, and they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. No more, the estimate is free. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you.
Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster, and stronger building.
Oh, madam, it is done.
Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor, stronger, faster, and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
Hello, information.
Madam.
Me, I have still not got the money for.
Welcome back from that short breather. If you just joined us, you are watching the newspaper review segment of the morning show. Good Morning Africa. We are live on Facebook at Pan African Television. Do well to send in your comments. I'll be more than glad to read them for you. We are talking about the controversial sacking of the managing director of the Ghana Airports Company Limited. And I think before the break, I was on Honorable Dr. Abdul Rashid Pelpo on this particular issue. Doctor.
The person or persons who ensured that this gentleman was sacked at this very moment did not do it for the state of Ghana, didn't do it for the public interest. They did it for a personal self interest. I don't know how anybody will dismiss a man who is insisting on following the rules by a private company person who doesn't respect anybody at all, who doesn't respect the system, who imposed himself in the system, built a structure that was not sanctioned, went ahead, inaugurated which was not sanctioned, refused to obey any instructions by a super company like the supreme organizing body of the airport authority. And then you eventually dismiss him at a critical point when members of parliament went there to intervene, to hear what the problem was, and then to go ahead to advise. In the process, whilst they were meeting everybody and meeting the MD, his dismissal was announced. What kind of impunity, disrespect, arrogance is this? I can't understand. I find it really difficult to appreciate. Even if you want to sack him, let this thing pass, and then you sack him. But to disrespect all the institutions, to disrespect the person who you relied on to move the system for a while, and to behave as if nobody cares, is something that we cannot tolerate. I don't think that it was a good thing at all. Yesterday, when the committee came, they were very sad to Parliament. I met one member of the committee who said that, it was difficult for her or him to sleep because he didn't feel respected for what happened there. Right. And I felt so too, as a member of Parliament. It's not about McDan, it's about the behavior of government which doesn't coincide with the real decorous conduct of a government that should be respected by the people. This is unacceptable, completely unacceptable.
Right, thank you very much. Honorable Dr. Adoma Wikisi.
So there are two things I think I would want to say in relation to this. One, I'm not very happy about the noise that this whole thing has generated. More importantly, the purported arrangement between a private individual and the airport authority, and I really think that in my own opinion, the lounge for private jets should be a national arrangement, and that is my personal. I'm not here talking for anybody. It's as a matter of national security in terms of where the world is now. I think that this project should be a national project, not a private individual. Now, beyond that, I've been to places in California where you can enjoy private jet lounges and things like that. But mind you, this is within the Americas. So if I was flying to Kumasi from here to a private jet lounge, that one is still in country. But your airport, where it's your hub of receiving things from the international world, from the Mexicos, the Argentinas, the Italians and things like that. I mean, just to name a few countries where we know what happens.
I understand.
I think it's worrying. So that is my personal concern with regards to this. So I believe that it should be a national project handled by the government of Ghana. So that's my thing on that. Now, in the other instance, I'm worried about how the let go was managed. And in all fairness, I think from a private company standpoint, if I fire an employee, he's the first person to hear before his subordinates, before the rest of the world. It shouldn't be that there's a letter hovering on the social media when the person in question has not been appropriately called, discussed, you know, and all of the avenues for redress attended to. And I really think that we need to be very careful about how we manage officials who are sacked, how we manage sacking of employees. You know, I lost a job once, and that one was even a downsizing thing, which affected many workers. So they took us through a whole counseling session, you know, and all kinds of things in preparation to the D-Day when you'll be laid off. And I think that these are very appropriate practices, because if, per what I know, transpired as I know, whereby his abrogation of the contract or his termination of his job was done via social media, then that is a very painful and unfortunate thing, which opens us up for even legal, suits from a human resource management standpoint. And I really would advise and hope that the authorities that manage this ought to be minded and careful about the way forward, especially with other appointees, you know, in the sense that employing has a process and firing also has a process. That has to be followed and followed carefully. Now, if you crucify him this way, then what happens to his next job? I mean, where is like, your firing letter is broadcasted for the whole world to see. How do you interview for your next job? And in all honesty, I really think and hope that the right thing will be done from all the stages. And need I say this, that listen, airport is about safety and security. And I mean, of all the industries in the world, if you take out the work we do in the operating room, I mean, in a theater from a medical standpoint, where also we are very mindful of safety and security because of human life. I think airports is one place where, as you know, when you are traveling, the checks, the double checking by the air hostess, or shall I say flight attendants, the pilots, the grounds work, man, I really think that for those reasons, documentation, appropriate approvals, and, you know, everything has to be carefully and properly done. And the way we like traveling as Ghanaians, if you joke with our airports, you won't have it easy. And I really think that whoever, if it's the transport minister, I would plead with him to do due diligence with regards to the rest of the matter moving forward. And more importantly, let's do the appropriate thing so that we account carefully. I want to hear personally, and I think maybe this is me being parliamentarian, we ought to have our transport minister come to Parliament to brief us in totality with regards to this aviation mishap. I'll call it an aviation mishap, and it shouldn't happen. It can lead to lives lost in the air. It can lead to all kinds of things, as we discuss this today. And with my small flight instructions experience, and the need to not joke with accreditations and approvals and things like that, my goodness, we really need to pay very serious attention to this. And I'll also use the opportunity to seek that Ghana Airport Authority or, you know, company should revisit or rebrief us on the status of COVID testing, because I think the worldwide standards are changing. And you know, it's one of the reasons why I abhor traveling these days, you know, the numerous additional COVID tested and all of that. I think we need to also relook at that to make traveling more enjoyable again, so that the likes of us who want to go to Nigeria and Togo by air can go through the airport, you know, in a very much easier and relaxed way. So those are my key things that I think that the private jet lounge, yes, it can be private jet lounge, but then it should be managed solely by government, by the state. If not, my relatives in Mexico will take us to town, and I don't think we want to be known for that. And maybe we ought to visit the Californians and the New Yorks. I mean, listen, whilst I was in Connecticut, people would use private jets to New York to work and come back. I mean, Charlie, people have it nice, so they travel to work by jet every day. And those, I mean, those are in-country arrangements, and as such, you know, yes, and those ones are sort of more relaxed. But when you go to Florida, where there are huge loads of drugs coming in, they don't joke with their private jet terminal. They don't at all. But then as you go further inland, where it's within the U.S., that one, yes, I mean, it can be a bit relaxed. So these are my concerns, and I feel sorry. I mean, when you lose your job, either way. But this dame is quite interesting. Kwakwa reminds me of Dami. It's like playing Dami. Unfortunately. Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Adomaku Kisi. If you just joined, we are discussing the controversial sacking of the managing director of the Ghana Airports Company Limited, in a letter addressed to him yesterday. This is what the letter says. It says, His Excellency, the President of the Republic, per letter number OPS 127.
I prefer we don't even read it. I mean, let's not,
for the purposes of education, so our viewers get
I'm not in agreement with even
dated
that
31st January 2022 has directed that the appointment of Mr. Yaw Kwakwa as the managing director of the Ghana Airports Company Limited be terminated. In this regard, kindly take the necessary steps to give effect to the directive. I count on your cooperation. So, of course, Mr. Kwakwa's dismissal, has been linked to the fracas the Ghana Airports Company has with, MacDan. Let me take Mr. Pratt's submission on this very issue.
Well, it's obvious that this dismissal was intended first and foremost to humiliate Mr. Kwakwa. People can be removed from their positions for various reasons. One of the reasons may well be to correct management practices and so on. Others could be for redeployment. And some removals could be to penalize and humiliate. And it is quite obvious that this particular dismissal was intended to humiliate, you understand. The circumstances are clear. Apparently, a directive is issued from the Flagstaff House to the minister responsible to effect his dismissal. The letter dismissing him gets even onto social media before he gets to know about his dismissal. As a matter of fact, he's on official duty when he's confronted by the media that he has been sacked, and he doesn't know anything at all about the fact that he had been sacked and why he has been sacked and so on. I find this extremely worrying. This throws us back to the era of military dictatorships when people were dismissed by radio announcement. I think we are back there, and I'm very, very worried, about this situation. For me, the other thing which is important, if you're doing an analysis of what has happened, is simply the fact that no reason was stated for his termination, for the termination of his appointment. Now, I'm not saying that it's not done. I mean, we are told that even ministers can be fired without assigning reasons and so on. But if you dismiss high-profile personalities, if you dismiss people without assigning reasons, you open the floodgate for speculation. Now, we are speculating about why he was sacked simply because no reason was stated for his dismissal. So now, some believe that this dismissal is occasioned by his insistence that MacDan should do the proper thing. Others say that it's the result of the agitation of workers of the company, for its removal and so on. We are engaged in this speculation because government, the presidency, did not provide us with any reasons for his dismissal. Now, there is something which is extremely strange. The Ghanaian people, the people of Ghana, have built an international airport. Indeed, until very recently, it was our only international airport. It was the gateway to Ghana. And we have three terminals, Terminal 1, 2, and 3. We signed an agreement with the United States of America for the United States of America to operate a military base in Ghana. Of course, if the United States of America is going to operate a military base in Ghana, it is going to need airport facilities to be able to do that. We knew that when we were signing the agreement with the U.S. Now, strangely, what have we done? We've given Terminal 1 to MacDan. And MacDan, in turn, has given Terminal 1 to the United States Army for them to operate their military base. What is this? We knew when we were signing the agreement to the government of the United States that we were going to need access to our airport. But we cleverly parceled out Terminal 1, gave it to McDan, and got McDan and the United States of America to sign an agreement so that the Terminal 1 becomes the terminal which is used by the U.S. Army. Now, what has happened? It means that all the payments for the use of our airport by the U.S. Army will go to McDan and not the government of Ghana. How can you do this and come back to us and say that we should pay E-levy? How can you do this? Clear. How can you do this and come back to us and say we should pay E-levy? Because whatever will be paid to McDan, only a portion of it will come to the government of Ghana. Now, if you had made the arrangement in such a way that the agreement had been signed with the government of Ghana would have been getting 100% payment for the use of Terminal 1. That's a huge problem. You understand? Now, what we're talking about is the use of a portion of Terminal 1 for the landing and departure of private aircrafts. Master, the landing and departure of aircraft has serious security implications. At this time that we are having this discussion, our intelligence services are warning us that Islamic insurgents have entered the country already. We are being told that even Boko Haram has sleeping cells in our country, and these are not, it's not me saying it. Our intelligence agencies are warning us. It is in the face of the possibility of an Islamic insurgency, of sleeping cells of Boko Haram and so on, that you decide that a private individual without any expertise in security, port handling, nothing, private businessman should handle the arrival and departure of private aircrafts. This is so shocking. It's so shocking, it's unbelievable. Meanwhile, the Ghana Airports Company has been handling private jets over a long period. So what we are actually doing is taking business from the Ghana Airports Company and handing it over to McDan. Why would we take business from the Ghana Airports Company and give to McDan? Why? Give me one good reason why we should do this foolish thing. Unbelievable. You are taking business from Ghana Airports Company and handing it over to McDan. For what purpose? If McDan was going to run at a loss, do you think that he'd have entered into that venture? McDan is there because he's going to make a lot of money for himself. That's why he's there. So some of our leaders, I don't know how they think. I don't know even what pushes them. It's difficult to understand some of these leaders that we unfortunately have in Africa and in Ghana. This thing doesn't make any sense. In any case, you are giving Terminal 1 to McDan. You've allowed him to establish a terminal for the departure and arrival of private jets and so on. The Ghana Airports Company writes to McDan, telling him that what he's doing is in breach of security. Cars are being allowed to park at security zones, and so on. And he's invited to come for discussions over the security implications of what he's doing. He doesn't go for the meeting. He proposes to inaugurate this terminal. The Ghana Airports Company writes to him and says, you cannot do that because of the security implications. These letters are copied to the Minister of Transport, National Security Minister. Everybody is copied. McDan, I was going to use some language. I nearly used some language. McDan simply ignores all of them and goes ahead with the inauguration. After the inauguration, following the intervention of security experts, he's told to suspend the operation. The next thing we hear is that the man who drew attention to the security implications of what McDan was doing and so on has been fired in this humiliating manner. What is the government telling us? What is the government telling the people of Ghana? So Magdan is more powerful than the Minister of Transport. Magdan is more powerful than the Minister of National Security. What is happening in Ghana? Unbelievable. You know, these are the things that happen which compels some people to describe Ghana as a banana republic. Because this is how banana republics work. No logic, no sense, no nothing. That's what we are faced with. Magdan did not contribute a farthing to the construction of Terminal 1. Not a farthing. Terminal 1 was constructed before he was born, probably before his mother and father were born. And then you hand it over to him. For what? The whole of Terminal 1, you handed it over to one person. For what? Now, if you're not able to deal with what is happening in Terminal 1, we should not be surprised when one day we wake up and Terminal 2 has also been given to somebody else as his private property to go and operate and make money. And then, the next time we blink our eyes will open to the reality that the whole airport has been privatized, has been given to friends and they say family to operate. What is this? You know, a lot of people make this noise that the private sector is more efficient and so on. Well, if you're in the private sector and you're giving all that Magdan is being given, why would you not be efficient? Why would you not make profit? If state business should be taken and given to you free of charge like that, why would you not make money? Master, take any dance, any fool, any dance, go to the street, take any dance from the street and give him the kind of preferential treatment that Magdan is being given and see whether he will not make profit. Anybody, all the people in the studio today here, there are how many people in the studio? About 10 people in the studio, including MCR. Anybody here, if you grab them and give them the advantages that Magdan has been giving, they'll become rich overnight. So this private sector versus state sector debate and so on, it is not about inherent weaknesses in the public sector. It's about the deliberate effort of leaders and politicians to collapse the public sector so that the private sector will thrive to their own personal individual benefit. That is what is happening. I'm disgusted by what is happening. And I'm disgusted by what is happening not because this managing director has not done anything wrong. He could have done something wrong. Workers started agitating for his removal long before this time. You understand? So maybe he's done something wrong. But whatever he has done wrong does not justify the arrangements we are making at the so-called Kotoka International Airport. I still refuse to call it Kotoka International Airport. As far as I'm concerned, that is the Accra International Airport. You understand? But look at what is happening. In any case, if somebody has to be dismissed at the Ghana Airports Company, the people watching us and listening to us, they know who should have been dismissed. Over the last year or two, who are the people in that company who have kicked up storms over procurement and so on? They are still there. So disgraceful. So disgraceful. So disgraceful. What is this? So embarrassing.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt Jr. Let's turn our attention to the very controversial electronic transaction levy. The discussion or the discourse about the E-levy never seemed to come to an end, and I think until it is passed or until it is booted out of Parliament, it will still linger on. So I think yesterday was the 65th birthday celebration of it was last week actually, of the majority leader of Parliament. He doubles as the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, Honorable Osei Mensah Bonsu. And I think we saw the cake, his birthday cake, E-levy cake. Yes, that was how the cake was actually baked. E-levy writing, and this has quite incensed Ghanaians. People are saying it is insensitive. I think our next topic too has got to do with the E-levy. E-levy into the most set for today, so we can marry both topics. The fact that there's a demonstration going on today about the electronic transaction levy. People are saying that they don't want to pay. So in protest, they are marching on the streets of the capital to register their displeasure. Let me start with Honorable Dr. Adomako Kisi on the issue of E-levy.
Well, in all fairness, or in all honesty, I've done almost a thesis on E-levy because I've been talking about E-levy forever. And today I would try to be very brief because I think I've spoken more than enough on electronic levy. In fairness, let me put this disclaimer out. Majority Leader's birthday cake was not this cake.
Okay.
Okay. The cake he bought for himself to be used for his program was not this cake.
Okay.
So we need to be mindful of that. All Ghanaians should be mindful of the fact that he had about 3 round cakes put together into a very nice white cake, covering. I like icing, by the way. Granted, I was not at this particular birthday, but all Ghanaians ought to be aware that the cake that his beautiful wife prepared for him for this function was not the E-levy cake.
Right.
Now, granted, friends and family, as we always say, come to your programs. One acquaintance of his provided this as a way of either spooking fun. We are even thinking that the greenness of the color suggests that it's somebody who is, more likely to be in line with Dr. Rashid Pelpo. So in all fairness to the majority leader, let all Ghanaians know, and I'm saying this with the deepest of respect to the Ghanaians, that our majority leader's cake, very nicely done, I have pictures of it and I'll share with you, was not the E-levy cake, but rather a very beautiful, simple cake provided by his lovely wife. I would hope that Ghanaians see how beautiful his wife looked during the occasion. Now, with regards to the E-levy, there's one thing that is very clear to me, as I've debated in many quarters. In the initial stages, the details of the bill was not very well understood by many. In fact, I've been here and said severally that if you are paid direct, salary through Momo, E-levy will not be touching it. Where others who are not privy to the entirety of the bill say or think otherwise. So what I've come to realize is that we need more and more explanation. We need more to understand what E-levy truly really is. And let me add that over the past several weeks, because of the stance of the minority, Finance Minister still has listened and made some adjustments which were not there before. One of the similar adjustments was the fact that if I have an MTN account in my name and a Vodafone account in my name, if I should move money to my own account on the mobile money networks, you'll not be charged. Like from my own account, MTN to Vodafone or Vodafone to MTN. So these are some of the intricacies that Ghanaians should know. In addition, merchant transaction. And that is where I think that today's apparent demonstration is born out of people who have not paid attention to the changes and adjustments that have been made. In the sense that I saw a video, and let me say it clearly, the purported NDC Okada riders who were making a press release with the general secretary of the party to the left of the Okada rider makes it so obvious that those people were propagandists and, in all truthfulness, an NDC machinery at work. And it won't wash. I think that the general secretary of the NDC should do the good job of informing his followers of the truthfulness that, listen, if you're an Okada rider, registered, well documented, and have a merchant account like what do you call it, Uber and all of these other transportation services, where there's evidence of you paying tax, you would not be, when somebody is paying to you, you would not have this challenge, because it will be a specialized vendor account that will be recognized, and as such, you would not be feeling the brunt of this 1.5 or 1.75 percentage deduction. So these are very potent education that we need to give to people. And I would argue that I think my friends on the other side should come out and say that, listen, maybe the 100 Ghana threshold should be moved to 300, or maybe the 100 Ghana threshold should be moved to 500. You know, these are all open for further discussion. But unfortunately, they are holding their ground and not budging to anything, which is not a very appropriate or well-meaning way of doing negotiations. You should have reasons and, you know, give reasons for why certain things have to be done. So I really think that this demonstration has been born out of one, ill intent for Ghana's development and growth. This demonstration is a bit too premature because, as we all know, Finance Minister has listened and is now, better late than never, doing tours and doing, you know, bringing the E-levy home to your doorstep through these town hall meetings. There's one going to be in the northern region, and I think I've seen how Akumsin and a few other governmental officials, including the finance ministry, go into the north to further explain this. And I really think that in any business, be careful who you are listening to. In one breath, the finance minister, who's the authority on E-levy, or shall I say, the originator, creator of the E-levy, is on a podium saying one thing, and then in another breath, the people who oppose it and have not looked at the changes and adjustments are also somewhere talking. Me, being objective, I'll listen to the two, but I have to pay attention to the one who has actually brought the bill and is saying that this is what the bill is, more so than all the rhetorics, you know, in the social media space and all of that. And in concluding, I think that there's been many arguments made for the E-levy and against the E-levy. But there's one thing that I will not depart from, and I want all of us to hear this carefully. I think that our development needs some refunding tools. Our car, our road networks, our infrastructure for internet, our infrastructure for technology, all of these things need some new financial tools to help us get to where we're supposed to be. And in doing that, all Ghanaians need to put their money where their mouth is. in the sense that, you know, we cannot do what my one of my uncles will do, where he will demand for a bunabunu, he will demand for imre, koto, and all of these things in the soup, and yet leave his wife with 1 Ghana cedis. We shouldn't be doing that with government. Government wants to do many developmental things for us, but government's revenue depends largely on our taxes. Government revenue depends largely on, you know, businesses that government runs. And I'll plead with the Ghanaian people that we will signal better to the international market. We will signal better to the rest of the world that truly we are for development and we are ready to part with no fuel to make our development great and strong. And I really think that when we say we should rise up as youth, the youth of today, we ought to be doing something new, something more monumental than our forefathers have done. And in the sense that some paid, yes, with blood, sweat, and tears, but now we ought to rise up and pay or contribute with our little bit so that we can ride on better roads. And I was telling my good friend that, listen, when I use the app Uber Eats and it works so nicely, the road that the Uber driver is going to use to bring me my delivery has to be good.
Yeah.
So that it won't be that I have to walk to a junction to meet my Uber driver. And this is what technology is about. And mind you, our internet speed can be improved. What we have that we think is so good, you know, Ghana, it used to be such that we had more dropped calls, calls not connecting that we have now. It has improved. We can do better. More towers means better network. And in also more cables, better fiber networks means better internet speed. When I was in Europe recently, I was like, wow, this is the same phone I'm using in Ghana. Look at the speed. So it wasn't about my phone, but the infrastructure was so good that things were moving much faster, downloading quicker. You can go on multiple pages so quick. You become more efficient and more productive. And it's like day and night, La Paz Toyota, a Mercedes-Benz, La Paz Toyota, a BMW. We want to take the technological infrastructure to the BMW level. And in doing that, we all need to contribute something. And for me, that is my thing about E-levy, that, listen, there are many arguments. But for me, I think that the best is that we need to show the rest of the world that we in our trotros demanding very good roads, we are actually also paying something small towards that road. And that is my 2 cents about this whole thing. So, Honorable Osei Mensa Bonsu, his cake that was prepared by family for him for the birthday, 65th birthday, was not the E-levy. It came through a friend of his, and it has nothing to do with his, thinking about E-levy. He would not disrespect the Ghanaian people. And in fact, it was a surprise for him when he saw it. And by way of being nice about it, if you look at the pictures, he's not even in the middle cutting the E-levy cake. He stands to the side and the other people cut it because, Obi Bechawadia, in our Ghanaian community and society, you cannot go and throw it away like that. You understand? So he was being gentlemanly in accepting the gift. And I wish to, if there's a little bit left, at least I would like to also go and taste it more, so that since it's now become a very popular cake, we should all just taste it. We'll give Rashid Pelpo to some. And I know, since it's a green-colored cake, Rashid Pelpo will be all over it because, is one of his party colors. So thank you very much.
Right. Right. Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Adumakwe Kisi. Let me come to you, Dr. Rashid Pelpo.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's an unfortunate situation that has caught up with our majority leader. I'm sure as much as possible he would have wished that the report about his 65th birthday would be very positive and that people will hail him for getting to that age. Unfortunately, lack of caution has brought him this length, where one person or himself seeking to undermine the views of others about E-levy brought this cake in front of him. And the reason I talk about lack of caution is that he went on to cut that cake. Even though it might not be the one from him, it might not be, it might not be the one, the cake that was meant for the event.
Let me send it to you.
So I sympathize with him, but I also receive the disregard for the passions, the emotions discharged about the E-levy, which should have been respected. You don't go, you have said that this is a very good E-levy. It's going to bring us $7 billion Ghana cedis. You want to move away from IMF and World Bank. You want to contribute money from taxes and things like that. That means this is a very important initiative that you are looking for. You don't go and joke with it, you know, at a birthday party and then cut it into pieces to mean that it's dead. E-levy is dead from what has happened. So I think that this was a bad event, and unfortunately, it's going to hurt him, you know, seriously. Baumia was there, the man who thought that there's so much money in Ghana, we didn't need IMF and World Bank, and up to now, we don't know where that money is. They are thinking that the only source of income now to do everything is the E-levy. So, and I also have heard my friend talking about the fact that E-levy is going to do so many things for us. If we want to move away from this, it's E-levy and all that and all that. But we have forgotten how much money we earn. This government has earned more than any other country, any other government in the history of Ghana. How much they have accumulated in terms of tax revenue and then borrowing. And yet, you can't show anything for it. So having had all this opportunity, you have not demonstrated strongly that when you have money, this is what you want to do with it and to satisfy the people of Ghana. Once you fail to do that, you don't go asking for more. For me, they have ended their term because there's nothing else we expect from them. I don't know what they will explain, what they will say about every money they have taken, all the huge sums of money accumulated in front of them, what they have done with it. I don't know. And I heard the president saying that, oh, because of the fact that we spend so much money, free transport, free food, feeding and water and electricity, we don't have money now, so E-levy will come and support us. But when you go to take all the monies they receive because of COVID, it's more than the money they are even asking for. So much money was given to them. Take IMF alone, the $1 billion given to them, change it into Ghana cedis. Change it into Ghana cedis. Yes, this one is also going to come in trenches. Into Ghana cedis, that's 6.4 billion. Just that investment alone. What about the World Bank? What about other, donor agencies, European Union, and the rest of them that came with a lot of money to support government? And yet you are crying and saying because of that, you don't have money. And when they ask you to account, they couldn't even account for how much they spent that money. And then the loaning they have taken, the loans they have taken. You don't know what, it has changed into cash into pockets of people. So they don't have money now to do public business. Because when you privatize public money, into the pockets of people, it becomes difficult to retrieve it and do government business. So government is broke, the people are rich. Individuals are rich. So I think that essentially, government is truly not serious with E-levy. It has been demonstrated in their inability to mobilize their own people to vote. It's been demonstrated by playing with it at a birthday party. It's demonstrated by not being able to utilize money effectively and not being able to account for money spent. So I don't think that they deserve any E-levy at all. I would have wished that whatever I can do to help governments to get money to run this country on behalf of all of us, even though we'll still vote them out, I would have wished to be part of it. But I can't be part of it now, given the fact that I don't trust governments. Just look at what they did, you know, at the airport company. Bring a private person, take control of the place, sack the MD because he was opposing. I mean, then the following day, E-levy has become a cake. They are dancing about it. This is not a government that can be serious. And I think that Nana Akufo-Addo and his Vice President Bawumia should now be saying thank you to John Mahama for doing everything he did to cushion up the place for them to come in and are doing what they are doing. Because I still see Bawumia and everything he said on behalf of the MPP as if to suggest that he was bewitched to do all the things, say all the things he said. Because you wouldn't say them if you were normal in your senses. To say that there's so much money at the Bank of Ghana, we can bring it, then you don't need to borrow. Number one. Number two, you are saying that, oh, toll booths, if you electronize them, you can get money enough to do all the things they are. Look at what they are doing. They took money, you don't know what they are doing. And they all saw what we did with the money. The roads we build, the schools we build, the universities we build, the secondary schools we build, the elementary schools, the basic schools we built, and everything that they saw. The airport we built, the overheads that we did, the many hospitals we built, they saw them all. And he said we did nothing. What have they done with the more than twice the amount of money totally that was borrowed between independence and now? What have they done with it? Me, I don't see any major projects they have done. Where are the major projects? So I believe that this is not a government to support. E-levy, like he says, I think that we need to support governments to earn money wherever they can find the money so they can run the economy. But E-levy has gotten to a point when they have to withdraw it completely. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. I'm still taking your Facebook messages. Let me read a couple of them before I come to Mr. Pratt. This one says, Vice President said Momo should not be taxed, and yet he is there celebrating with the majority leader with the E-levy cake. The Vice President should come out clear on it. If World Bank money and others received from IMF could not change anything in Ghana, what will E-levy 6.9 billion do for you people? From Abdul Martin in Tamale. Okay, please ask Dr. Adomago Kisi that if the telco companies cannot link our information with the Ghana cards, how will they link and know that the money is from my account on Vodafone to MTN? Or they want to deduct, then we can later go and queue for refund. Then it's why Akwete says, granted, the twist that the so-called E-levy cake was presented by opposition NDC or its member, the majority group leader who became a beneficiary of the said cake could not at least perceive the consequences thereof. He was how we credit people who could not anticipate the future with the title honorable, not to talk about how we allow such people. All right, and E-levy won't help us as far as the government stopped the toll booth from working due to traffic is a waste, because the same thing he wants to turn to public toilet will cause more traffic. Moreover, our trade, well, I can't, the message isn't so clear. Okay. This one says, Dr. Adoma Kukisi, after getting power, he's speaking purely MPP language and not his own opinion. Before he became MP, Mohammed Abdul Razak Ali says, Doctor, why don't you advocate for our monies missing to corruption according to Auditor General reports to be collected and also account for all the revenue your government has accumulated?
Let me do something before that he comes. There's this perception about Auditor General and the claims they make, especially after the audit work. And this week, fortunately, the Public Accounts Committee is meeting, and I can say without a doubt that I think that in truthfulness, they need to revise their work even before they go public, because this week a lot of things that had been resolved were still part of the document that they had presented, which I think is rather unfortunate, and it's not doing Ghana a service. More than 60% of the said amounts are actually monies that have later been either properly accounted for in terms of documentations presented, or people who were paid on earned salary, like somebody leaves work and he still gets paid 3 months. Most of them have been recouped. And I think the challenging ones are sometimes those who die and the systems fail to alert Controller General early enough to stop their payments. But in all fairness, I think that, and I'm talking as somebody who has assessed even the NDC era and the MPP era, and there are many such accounting abnormalities that unfortunately get bogged or boxed into this arena of losses to the state. And I really think that we ought to look at the revised versions so that we are guided. Let me share one example. In Sawim, I know, but let me make this point. In Sawim, for instance, had paid for a Nissan pickup, which was delayed in receiving, and that was accounted for as a loss to the state. But after a year or so, they got that pickup back, and that will be still seen as maybe a loss to the state. But these are the stories that we need to tell the Ghanaian people that, listen, yes, I'm not saying that there are no losses. There are some losses, unfortunately. But per what I'm seeing this week, I think that the numbers ought to be revised downwards absolutely once we get the resolutions done. And it will show more clearly, what these numbers are. Okay. Right. So I think we'll leave the rest of the time to Mr. Pratt
on the issue of the E-levy.
The E-levy cake. I don't know if he would also want to have a piece of
You see, does it matter whether the majority leader bought the cake with his money or not? It doesn't matter. The cake was presented to him on his birthday, and he gleefully cut the cake with his friends. That's the matter. Whether he bought it, no. Whether he bought it with his own money or somebody bought it with his money or whatever. It was an E-levy cake. It was cut at his birthday. He was so happily partaking in the cutting and the eating of the cake. That's the matter finished. And
you and I were not there. But that's
it. But you see, Masa, for me, the symbolism.
This is actually.
Yes, Masa, but the symbolism. We are going to introduce E-levy. There's controversy around it. A lot of people are saying that this E-levy is to make you eat fat. You are introducing it so that you can eat fat. You are introducing it so that you can continue with your extravagant lifestyle and so on. And then you go and make an E-levy cake, cut it and eat it. There's symbolism.
There should be some humor in politics.
There's symbolism. And it didn't strike them. As for the argument that my brother and friend Dr. Dumaku Kisi makes, we should forget it.
That culturally, you'll be a bit cake.
Massa, as for that argument, forget
it.
So
if they give you a gun, will you use it to shoot yourself?
No, but that one is not expected to
fire so if they sent him a poisonous substance, he would have eaten it because it was a gift.
Oh.
So that argument just collapses. I mean, that's a very bad argument.
Okay.
That collapses.
I'll leave it there.
Yes. This cultural argument, that if they give you a gift, you have to accept it. If I took poison to him on his birthday, would he have drank it?
No.
Well, if you told him it was poison, he won't.
But the E-levy cake is worse than poison. Now, he has collapsed the whole initiative of his government. You know, this one, he hasn't died, though. He hasn't died alone. Do you know what has died? With this cutting of E-levy cake and eating and so on. You know what has died? It's terrible. I mean, and public officials should be a little more cautious, a little more mindful of the symbolisms, you know, that they put out there. I'm so disappointed. You understand? What would have happened if there was no E-levy cake at his 65th birthday? In any case, you are the people sitting in parliament, covering your head with things that look like gold and wearing big bangles and wearing kente cloth and so on, saying that it is now time for us to go back to our culture. Are you not the people who are telling us that from Parliament House? Wearing all kinds of things.
No, that is Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, but did you read the statement he made, justifying what he had wore?
That is Mr. Speaker.
No, it is not Mr. Speaker. He's introducing a new tradition in Parliament.
Stop heckling.
And then when it comes to your birthdays, you go cutting E-levy cakes. What is wrong with you people? Traditionally, do we cut cakes to mark our birthday?
No.
So when it comes to dressing, they're fine. When it comes to eating, they're no. We mark our birthday traditional. You know what we used to mark our birthdays? And if you had gone traditional, there wouldn't have been an E-levy cake anyway. Master, if you stop doing that to us, we are getting fed up with you people.
Right, I think we displayed the original cake. Yes, the original
beautiful
cake. Yes.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Headman, what does that mean? You displayed the original, what does that mean?
There was no E-levy.
There was an E-levy cake which was cut. That's what people are talking about. Original, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Okay. It doesn't matter to them.
When you keep
quiet, matter.
You are saved from further
They
attacks.
did an E-levy cake, they cut it and they ate it. That's all.
Right, thank you very much. I think you are hard pressed.
I think I need to make an album on E-levy soon.
All right, I think we don't have much time on our side, so unfortunately we can't digest the last topic, which has got to address Safo going away without official leave. So I think we'll end it here. It has been a very fruitful discussion on today's edition, Thursday edition of the morning show. Many thanks to Honorable Dr. Dumaku Kisi, who represents the people of Anyansu Utum in Ghana's Parliament. Many thanks to Honorable Dr. Abdul Rashid Pelpo, who is the Member of Parliament for Ward Central. And many thanks to Comrade Kwesi Pratt Jr., who is the Managing Editor for the Insight newspaper, as well as the General Secretary of the Socialist Movement of Ghana. Thank you two so much for participating in this very, very interesting discussion. See you same time tomorrow morning. My name is Bless Hetman Aloma. So do have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.